I have felt pain before in my life, real pain, but this was my first introduction to sheer agony, and it did not go well. I immediately wished for death just to escape it. If I had had a gun at that moment, I would have used it without hesitation. The only sane thing I could think of was call someone, maybe they'll have a gun or a machete. I'd even be happy with a butter knife. For the first time in my entire life, I had no idea what to do. I was lost, deep in a terrifying, dark forest of torment, and I hadn't a clue as to how to get myself out. Never had I felt more totally, utterly alone than I did in that moment, in the early morning hours of that cold December day in my rented flat on Cadogan Square. Well, up until that day, that is. I was about to become very intimate friends with alone. I began silently praying, get to the phone, just get to the phone. Everything will be all right if you could just get to your stupid cell phone. All while screaming my open mouth cry. Oh, I said softly as an ice pick rammed into my side. I realized the pain was getting worse. It was this pulsating, living thing that seemed to emanate from just under my left rib cage. Thank you, dumb fuck. Where is your stupid phone? Just then I remembered my habit of dumping everything on the bed of the tiny guest room when I got home with a carefree, oh, I'll deal with it later. I gotta open the wine to let it breathe, which no alcoholic would ever do. So even though my flat wasn't big, it sure felt pretty enormous when seen from an inch off the floor. Every time I'd move even slightly, 1,000 knives instantly plunged into my stomach. I found the teeniest bit of relief in child's pose, which I soon discovered is not a speedy form of travel. But what choice did I have? There I was, inching along like an exhausted turtle, covered in blood and vomit, sweat pouring down my face, sobbing like a 4-year-old, completely committed to the fact that if I was gonna die, I was damn well gonna do it next to my goddamn phone. I have no idea how long it took me. My reasonable estimate is an hour. When I finally reached my coat, which I'd taken off mere hours before when I had been a virgin to real pain, blissfully innocent of my coming fate, I yanked it off the bed, found my phone in a pocket, and shakily dialed 999. Eerily, just a few days before, back when I was the old me, someone in rehearsals had mentioned that in UK, their 911 is 999. 911, sorry. When the operator answered, I discovered I couldn't speak. I actually tried to talk and I could not. Later, I would learn that during my Elvis catnap, my perforated tummy had leaked out all of my stomach contents, which had filled up my body, preventing my diaphragm from being able to move. But at that time, I had no idea why I could not make sound. I'm fairly certain I wouldn't have felt better if I actually had known, but it was terrifying just the same. What the fuck is wrong with me? I must have managed to gasp something out because I passed out again, and the next thing I knew, my intercom was buzzing. As I slowly inched towards it, thankfully only a few turtle crawls away, I realized I was wearing my vomit-soaked tank top and bloody sweatpants, not my usual outfit when welcoming the cavalry. Then with one heroic movement, I used the last of my strength to reach the buzzer, agony, and I pressed. I unlocked the door, slumped down into a puddle next to it. Thank God, I did it. Help is here. Unfortunately, any relief I felt at being rescued turned immediately to disappointment when I clapped eyes on my saviors, two small men radiating frustration and annoyance. Much later, I would find out that my call came at the end of their shift, but at the time, all I knew was that I had clearly done something terrible to them, and all I could manage to do was gasp out a pathetic, "I'm so sorry." I'll never forget the expressions on their faces when they caught their breath and they really looked down at me. It was total, absolute revulsion. Wait a second. Hold on. Could it be possible I was the grossest thing they'd ever seen? At least in America, we have people who are so obese they haven't gotten out of bed in 10 years and need a crane to get to the hospital. In America, a sobbing B-list actress stewing in her own juices would at the very least be asked for her autograph, and then she'd be quickly filmed with a cell phone. People would view the shaky footage of that very worst moment of my entire life, and they'd feel terrible for me while secretly emailing it to all their friends to gross them out. And eventually, I'd get my own True Hollywood story where I'd alternate between being totally hilarious and weeping with shame, and the ratings would be so high I would get my own reality show and I'd finally be back on top. USA, USA! I digress, get over it. Anyways, I guess I convinced them I wasn't some crazy suicidal drunk, haha, fooled ya, and that something might actually seriously be wrong with me. Even in my pain, I marveled at how these curmudgeons did their jobs every day when clearly they were far better suited for jobs as meter maids or prison guards. I thought it was terribly rude to judge someone who, even though she looks as though she's an extra from the set of a horror film, is still hotter than either of you. My flat was on the 5th floor, and I pensively waited for them to give me some painkillers and load me on the stretcher, except they did neither. It soon became clear to me that they expected me to walk to the exquisitely slow miniature elevator, which was obviously built at some point during the Elizabethan era. They then expected me to stand up in this rickety, minuscule contraption for 4 minutes, the length of time I knew it would take me to deliver me to the 1st floor, which was absolutely out of the question, an impossibility. But as I looked up at them from my knees, my face caked with tears and blood, into eyes that showed me no pity, I realized that's precisely what I was going to do. No. Oh, my dear God. Come on, miss. Up you go. Cheers. Yeah, right on your feet. Yeah, I'm sure it's right painful. Here we go. Well, you're going to have to. No two ways about it. Miss, your screaming isn't helping keep on. There you go. Almost right. Just, yes, a few more steps. And here's the lift. And just get on the lift, miss. And here we are. Now, well, that wasn't worth all the fuss, was it? Imagine walking completely bent over like an upside-down L. Imagine smelling like what I suppose a decomposing corpse must smell like. And then picture being crammed into a tiny, airless moving closet with 2 people who are already clearly revolted by you. Imagine all of this while being in the most pain a human can bear while remaining conscious. Finally, the elevator door opened and fresh air whooshed in, and for one brief and glorious moment, the 3 of us experienced exquisite relief. I learned one thing on the elevator ride from hell. If you smell so bad you gross yourself out, man, you stink. Much later, when I first recalled these men and their awful carelessness and lack of empathy, thoughts of the elevator ride instantly filled me with evil glee. I guess vengeance via olfactory is better than nothing. Eventually, with a crisp yet reluctant manner, which, okay, that I get. No one wants to wear someone else's dinner home to the missus. One of them lifted me up and heaved me into the arms of the other guy in the ambulance, or trolley, or Florrie, or Tippy, or Froggy, or Pram, or whatever cloyingly adorable fucking name they use. I wonder what they call a stretcher, because I sure as hell could have used one earlier. They strapped me into what, in my insanity, looked like a booth at Bob's Big Boy. It was probably a bed or something, but what are you going to do? Get all James Fry on my ass? It's my stupid story. I say it was a booth. After they seat-belted the big girl into her big boy booth, they proceeded to drive me, with exquisite care, to hospital. They don't say the hospital. They say hospital. Don't ask me why. I'm from a country that believes in dentists and ice cubes. As we made our way through the cobblestone streets of London, my vicious saviors were so careful not to miss a single pothole or red light. I didn't even rate that cool wee-wah, wee-wah, wee-wah sound. I hoarsely begged them for something to ease my agony, and how odd to actually mean it for once. They gave me the gas they told me they give to women about to give birth, which helped not even a little. But then my tolerance was so high at this point, I don't think an elephant tranquilizer would have made a dent. The next while was a blur, getting into the hospital, being forced to wait endlessly until someone decided to help me. I was in a curtained-off area in the emergency room, lying on a cot with my knees up to my chin, beyond freezing, and just horrified to realize the agony was getting far worse with each passing moment. It was the kind of pain that none of their occasional shots of morphine seemed capable of wrangling. Oh, the hilarity. Here I am, a gal who's laid waste to miles and miles of Vicodin, and now when I truly need it, it's rendered useless? I mean, that's fucked up even for you, Satan. I wondered if pain itself could kill. I tried desperately to concentrate on something happy or pretty, but some asshole was screaming so fucking loudly in the ER I couldn't think. It was only when a nurse angrily opened my curtain and shouted, "Miss, do stop screaming as you're disturbing the other patients," did I understand that the constant ear-splitting screams were my own. Later, when thinking about those awful hours, and trust me, I do so as rarely as possible, I can't believe that I was in such terrible straits and so close to death, and yet no one gave a shit about me, least of all me. Never once did it cross my mind to demand to be treated better, or scream at the paramedics to bring up a stretchy, or at least drive the speed limits, or to karate chop that rude twat of a nurse's head off. Because in the darkest part of my heart, I'd always known this day would come. I was simply reaping what I'd sown, getting exactly what I deserved. So there I lay, the ugliest American, imprisoned in the politest ER of all of London, a creature of my own making, a now silently screaming, sweating, freezing, smelly, and very, very lonely turtle. At some point it dawned on me I might actually be in big, big trouble. And that thought was immediately followed by the staggering realization that despite years of slowly killing myself, all I wanted, with more passion and ferocity than I'd ever wanted anything else in my entire life, was to live.